Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And right now, we're going to be talking about the role of Parliament in resolving our economic crisis. I mean, how do we get through this entire economic maze? How do we find our way through, get out of the woods? Joining us for the conversation, Kweku Ricketts-Hagan is Member of Parliament, Cape Coast South. He is also a former Deputy Finance Minister. We also have, he's not been here in a while. I'm sure we all miss him. We call him Sticker. Real name, Dr. Stephen Amwa, Member of Parliament in Shire, so Member of Parliament's Finance Committee. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. All
right, so I'm going to lay some ground rules, right? And it's because, Charlie, the fire, we had a pre-discussion. And the fire they were bringing, so I'll just have to say this to both of you gentlemen. I just hope that you will keep the noise down. Yes, let's have a very interesting, maybe even feisty conversation, but you all know, l'argent n'est pas libre. Si kampe dede. Intima yenye dede. Dr. Amwa, yenye dede. So the Ghana city will not be suppressed even further.
We have destructive interference of waves.
And
constructive
ones as well.
Waves.
Okay.
So it depends.
Okay, so we'll be making constructive noise, eh?
That is sound. That's the difference in physics. The difference between sound and noise is that we can all be producing output which will seem like, dede. But one of them is constructive because the waves involved are constructive. And they are destructive. Destructive in a noise and a constructive. The president's statement is about the destructive one.
Okay. So we are not going to be making any discordant.
Any destructive.
Discordant way. Matiasi.
Medawasi.
Okay, so we're here to talk about the economy. I want to start from Mr. President's address last Sunday at around 8 p.m. Depending on which station you were following, it started at 8 exactly or a little after 8 o'clock. I'll start with you, Kweku.
Yeah.
For you, what were your key takeaways? I mean, on social media, people have had their say. But what is your say on what Mr. President had to share with us? He spoke about traders who are making exorbitant profits, saying that they should cut down, mitigate in a way what they are hoping to get on the back of the financial situation we find ourselves in. He spoke about import substitution, producing some things locally rather than importing them, and even getting to the point where we are exporting a lot of these bits as well. Quite a number of things he had to say. Oh, and he also mentioned that there will be no haircut, and there have been explanations to that. I've heard some people forcefully say that there will be a haircut, whether it will be Sakura or punk or what kind of, there will be a haircut. What's your take?
Thanks very much, and good morning to our viewers this morning. And morning to my brother. It was quite unfortunate because I think there was a lot of expectations, basically by the citizens and also by the international community or the investor community. You remember people were calling for this because during the COVID, we had a president in our homes pretty much every week. And that if this was supposed to be an aftermath of the COVID crisis, as you put it, one would expect that the president will continue to engage the citizens to let us know exactly what is going on and what they are trying to do to fix the problem. So people were calling for this, and they eventually came. But it was quite disappointing because what the people were expecting the president to do in terms of taking leadership and telling us exactly what they are doing or what they are going to do to fix the problem, that did not come out with the clarity that we were looking for and still left us in a state of uncertainty. Now, when I listened to him, most of the things he was talking about, and you have just alluded to some of them here, are things that we have, not only him, but we have all talked about, how as a country we depend so much on import and we export very little, which is part of the structural challenges that we have and all the things that we've talked about, which he did talked about as well that, we should be doing. But he did not provide the leadership in terms of providing solutions and the details of it. I do understand that the president only talks about the high-level issues and probably somebody will come in and fill the gaps. But the little details that we expected on some of the policy directions were really not forthcoming.
Which ones specifically?
Well, let's start with the currency, for instance, because I want to start with the big issues that are really hitting us or causing the challenges that we have at the moment. And the currency is one. First of all, the president says that there's going to be new monies coming in. The question is, which new monies? Are we talking about the cocoa syndicated loan that we already know about, that is on its way coming? Or is there some new money that the president is privy to that we are not aware of? Of course, what it did confirm, because we did know about the cocoa money, it did confirm that at least some cocoa money will be coming in. And of course, it will be a relief. I think the market responded to that. But it's only for a short while. I mean, at the moment, we are running the country as if we are firefighting. Basically, we don't seem to have a plan. We don't seem to have a strategy. It's basically try and error and coming up with things that solve the problem momentarily, and then the problem resurfaces, and when it does, it's much bigger. The other thing, so that is where I hope that the finance minister will come, and this is what Parliament comes in, to really tell us exactly if there's any new money coming from somewhere other than the cocoa money that we're looking at. He did talk about other things around the currency issues to do with all these people who sell currencies, around the country and all that. And I don't think...
Is the Bank of Ghana not already working on some of those? We know the actions that have been taken against the black market operators
that is what I'm saying.
Some Forex Bureau have been shut down.
Yeah, the things that he's talking about. I mean, I would have gone further than that. But some of the things he's talking about are already happening. So they weren't really anything new.
Okay.
And the problem still persists. All these things we've talked about, the problem is still going on. So what is new? You had a weekend of a meeting at Peduase with all your ministers and all that. And we were expecting the president to come with tangible solutions, not wishful thinking. A lot of the things he was talking about were actually things that the president wishes. Now, what the president fails to know, or this government fails to understand, is that they have, let's say, three problems. Number one is that this government, this president, suffers from policy credibility. The government also suffers from lack of confidence by its own citizens and the investment community. And then, of course, the third one is some kind of liquidity, money that we need as a stopgap as we work on, medium to long-term things. It is for that reason that we are at IMF, for that credibility and for that investor confidence. So if the government comes, or if the president comes and says things, the president must understand that he already suffers from this policy credibility. Therefore, a lot of the things he says are not taken seriously, because people believe that...
So you're suggesting Mr. President and his team have a credibility deficit?
Yes,
That's
they do.
what you're saying.
The president himself has his own credibility, and then his government, the entire government, and then also the people who are doing all these negotiations with the IMF. I think the president is ill-advised, because he said certain things that you will not expect the president to say.
Like what?
Just a second. The president's principal economic and finance advisors are his finance minister and the minister of state are the minister of finance at the presidency.
At the presidency. You're talking about Edu Buahin.
These are the two, Edu Buahin and Ken Ofori-Atta. These are the two people who suffer their own credibility issues together with somehow deflated or beleaguered finance ministers. And I have a feeling now that they are trying to save their own image before the president by not giving the president the right advice. Because certain things, and then you ask me what? I'm sure we'll come to all this, but this haircut issue.
So very quickly on that, because we'll have time to...
The haircut issue is something that I was not expecting the president to talk about. But somebody must have advised the president that there are people out there speculating, or what they call people doing, some kind of a propaganda or whatever, about the fact that the country might ask for a haircut. And that the president should come out and diffuse that.
You think that was a wrong move?
It's a wrong move because they did not explain. And I don't expect the president to understand what a haircut is or what that entails. He was definitely advised to make that statement.
You're saying, but he said definitively, there will be no haircut.
Now,
you're assuming he just said that?
The president is not part of the IMF negotiation, even though he leads the country. He has put people there to negotiate. You don't come out of an ongoing negotiations to talk about things that you yourself claim you have not agreed on. We are not sure. Their sustainability analysis has been done as we understand it. The negotiations is about to get to a staff level agreement. Where you get at the staff level agreement is where you get the opportunity. And remember, as we said, staff level agreement, it does not mean that you are definitely going on the program until you go to the board. But what the staff level agreement does is that it opens the door for you, for your creditors, or for you to engage your creditors on the form of restructuring. The word restructuring comes out of the word structure. You have an existing loans with a certain structure that doesn't work for you.
Right.
You are not able to pay. So you need to restructure. You don't come out to preempt what form of restructuring you are going to do. Because people out there are saying that you are going to do a haircut. Sorry, my brother.
Right.
You are going to do a haircut and that you are coming to diffuse it. It doesn't diffuse the problem. Now, it puts us all in a serious, problem. What type of... Are you going to be doing restructuring? If your debt is not sustainable, according to the DSA, the natural progression is that you'll be doing a debt restructuring.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you're going to do a debt restructuring, what form of debt restructuring are you going to be doing? Because there are many forms of restructuring that you can do, haircut being one of them. Now, are you restructuring domestic debt or external debt? Are you doing haircut or you are doing other forms of restructuring? These things are all not out yet. So to come out emphatically and say that you are not doing a haircut, you haven't even got to the staff level to be making that determination. So that was ill advice. And the president should not have come to do that thinking that will stem off or that will take off the speculation.
Stave off, speculation.
Well, speculation that's going on.
But then again, can you blame Mr. President? Because there are speechwriters, there are communicators, there are people in charge of all of this.
That's what I'm saying. That the advisors, and I'm talking forget about speechwriters. Speechwriters write English. The technicalities or the economics and the finance should be coming from the finance minister or whoever is at the negotiation table with the IMF. Because this is a communication straight to the IMF, not only to us, that I'm not doing haircutting. You haven't even started that portion of the negotiation, but you're already ruling yourself out of, possible talking. You owe money to people.
Okay.
It is not entirely up to you to rule out certain things, and then you shoot yourself in the foot.
Okay.
By saying that even if people are considering that they are going to cut their losses,
right,
by agreeing to some kind of a haircutting, you yourself come out and say, I'm not doing any haircutting. And therefore, you are limited.
Okay. So
in what you intend to.
Thank you for your initial thoughts. And maybe just to quickly because I wanted to go to Doc on this, but just a quick one. Because you made mention of Ken Ofori-Atta and Edubuahin.
Yeah.
What role does the Vice President, the head of the economic management team, play in all of this? There has been a lot of talk about oh, this and that. I don't want to get into that. But what role does he play? Since you are singling out the finance minister and
Is the vice president
finance
really,
minister.
really part of the economic management team now?
Is that a question to ask, especially when we know he is head of the team?
Because we haven't heard from him.
Must you hear from him directly before you?
Of course.
I mean, he's not...
He is supposed to, look, before the president comes in, the vice president is supposed to shield the president. Okay? He is the head of the economic management team. He's somehow supposed to be, not necessarily even if he's not at the negotiating table in Washington, at least when they come to Accra, you would expect that the vice president, is part of it. I am not quite sure who actually is heading the delegation in terms of the negotiation. I assume it's Ken Ofori-Atta. You remember when we went to the IMF, the president came out clearly, President Mahama. The person who was heading the IMF negotiation was not Honorable Setepe. It was what is it called, Dr. or Professor Kwesi. Okay, here now I am not quite sure, because we were told that the president, when my colleagues' friends went to the president with the idea that they wanted the finance minister out and all that, the president told them that, look, let's allow the finance minister to complete the IMF negotiation. That itself, it's problematic.
We'll get into that question, but thank you very much for those initial comments.
So my question to you is that, is the vice president still the head of the economic management?
Maybe you should address that.
Yes.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
All right.
You should address it to Dr. Amwa.
Yeah.
Look, maybe we can start from there. I would ask for your reflections on what Mr. President, said in his address on Sunday, but he has a question he's just put to you. Would you mind answering?
Thank you very much. My regards to our cherished viewers and listeners this very morning. I thank you for giving me this opportunity, this platform. Surprisingly, in times such as this, one would have expected the opposition members positioning themselves in a way that they will think they are really taking this country serious, they are taking the crisis serious, and they up to something very constructive. For my senior brother and my friend to ask you this question, demonstrate the fact that our brothers from the our brothers from the NDC, indeed have nothing constructive for us. They are not very serious. I mean...
So based on what are you saying this?
But as the answer lies with you. Why is he asking you to answer him? What's your jurisdiction?
But in any case, he deflected the question. He deferred to you.
I'm asking, we are serious handling serious issues in our country today. We are in an outlier situation. There's a global crisis that that even prices of developed economies, averagely 300% post-COVID. UK, even now that it has reduced from 10 to 8.8. Post-COVID inflation rate, and because of the war, even now it's 405%. 405%. We depend on them economically. So what happened to us? We are in a situation that we don't have to do too much politics because we want to come to power. The vice president is still the head of the economic management team, and he's playing an active role. And the fact of the matter is that every organization, every government structure has segmentalized jurisdictions. So we have the vice president is not the interface player, and then he doesn't operationalize our economic activity. So you don't say if the finance minister comes out or the president comes out because he's been briefed by his ministers to speak, you say, if Baumia had come to
he was suggesting that
if
as head
Baumia
of the economic management team,
they would have also asked where is the president.
He's a bit of a stopgap before the president in terms of economic
So he should come and speak before the president. Where is the model? Where? Tell me. But let's get to serious issues. My brother,
but no,
you are just destroying my time with this whole...
No. This is a crucial matter.
In times such as this, that he's asking you, Vice President,
before your
administration
came to power.
Let me speak.
When there's a question, at least let it come up. We are talking about the same...
Whether Vice President is the key issue you want us to discuss right now on your platform?
No, I just want us to get
I've answered he is. Can we move on?
Yes, we can. But hold on. Before your administration came to power, no one was asking why now President Akufo-Addo was not the one speaking about, economic affairs. It was the vice president who was talking about it all the time.
Which one?
Is it wrong?
No, which
it was Dr.
The president was
he was the one giving the
president was not
about
speaking,
the economy.
The president was not speaking on economic issues. The president was speaking as a statesman, just like the COVID. We have global crisis. It has affected Ghana, and the president felt he had to speak. Not necessarily president concentrating on economic issue. That's not true. Can I move on?
A very final bit. So should we see the vice president in the thick of things when it comes to our IMF negotiations? That's my final bit to you.
Of course.
Should we see him actively
Of course, but who told you he's not actively involved? Who said that?
I never said that. I'm asking you, should we see him actively involved? That's all I'm asking.
You didn't ask because it is an inevitable fact. But what I'm saying is that the IMF they are talking about, they've met us, me sitting here, and my brother sitting here, the finance committee. World Bank has met us, or they have met us. So all the lies and the speculations going about, sometimes I wonder if indeed Ghana truly is God's country we're talking about. Or just because of politics, we need to abandon God and lie, speculate, get Ghanaians scared so that people will vote for us. Is that what we are talking about? I think the most important thing we need to discuss this morning is what the president said. My brother, or my senior brother is saying that, the president did not say anything new. If we had to do we had to do comparative analysis. The former president, what did he say? He that even has luxury of time. Tell me any new thing that he proposed. I don't want to go in there. So far as I am concerned, the situation we have today has to be put in three main
thematic areas?
Yes, folders. One, we should be able to honestly analyze and appreciate and accept the causes of what is happening today.
Okay.
And I see that twofold. One, as a country, chronically, our economy, because it depends on other jurisdictions or other economies, we are not very strong. Let's be very honest. So we need a long-term approach, very comprehensive approach, to deal with this thing once and for all, the import-driven economy. Two, the severity of what is happening right now, any honest, God-fearing person who is not suffering from unconscious incompetence or just displaying intellectual dishonesty will not say that it has been exacerbated by the global crisis. Unless you don't go to church or mosque, or you go but you think God doesn't exist. Because
you mean it has not been. If you say it has been, I think you mean anyone who is of any sound mind.
I'm saying he will not say it has not been.
Yes, you said it has been. That's what the not didn't come. That's why.
Boss, you know what I'm talking about. Don't try to get me off my track. What I'm saying is that
I am not. I'm just trying to get you to clarify.
You didn't hear me. If that was what you heard, I'm clarifying it now. That any honest, God-fearing person who is not being ignorant or is just displaying intellectual dishonesty will not accept the fact that this thing that we are talking about, it has got nothing to do with the war. What I'm trying to say is that we depend on giant economies. We are not comparing ourselves to them. But UK's inflationary rate has been increased from 1.74, it went to 10, now it's 8.8, which is 405%. UK, they say, US, they say, all giant economies, they are the same. But we buy from them. So once we accept that this is this acute crisis is as a result of this, then we can find solution to it if you don't understand your problem. Two, the president also made a number of statements that the behaviors of we all as stakeholders, which was very critical in times such as this. And then he went further to tackle the technical aspect. One, we have problems with our currency. He went to the extent of addressing basic things that are always causing these issues. So that when there's small global turbulence, it aggravates our problems. And that is the importation of common food items. He made mention of rice.
Something we've not known?
No, we are doing, but we are not doing it probably the way to meet, the demand.
He made mention of 1D, 1F as well. We've known this.
I'm coming.
But
what else you want to
still marked time.
Yeah, but every statement by any government all over the world, a statement made before. Tell me. Because they are the critical factors or drivers, and they are very relevant parameters. So the president says that yes, we need to have a second look and quickly work on these things. The president also talked about the fact that government is still going to commit itself and even increase, possibly, cutting down expenditure and setting caps for the statutory aspect. Cutting down expenditure, what the president meant was the discretionary spending arm of our budget, things that the president can decide not to spend or reduce. The president decided to go and do this thing. Also improve revenue generation percentage of our GDP from about 13% to between 18 and 20. If people don't understand these things, they shouldn't go and do propaganda with it. These are very important issues. Look, you see, one of the things that is destroying our country today, or even deepening the already existing hardships we are having, is the speculation. This very morning, your own brothers here, Joy News, I just open into it. Hey, a certain woman says she cannot even buy food for herself and her children. My brother, is there any period in our history in this country that every mother can buy for the children?
Is there any period as well when things escalate to the point where more and more people are...
Is there any period that...
No, I'm throwing the question back to you.
Asking you. I'm also asking you, is there any period that the people we depend on, within about 1 year, their inflation rate moves over 400%? Is there any time like that we depend on them? Tell me, is there any time like that?
What are the effects of that?
Because we buy from them, so it impacts us. Look, what you are wearing, we imported them. So if on their market is bad, what will happen? Is there any period that in this country...
Is that not based on your currency?
No, you are
not based on your currency and its depreciation?
So who caused it?
We've always been buying from them.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is we have a long... I'm not sure you really understand what I'm talking about. But if you allow me to flow, because it's not fair. You didn't engage him like that. Can you allow me to flow? Then you ask me a question.
Well, I will have to interject when there's need for
that. Media,
go ahead.
Check the number of times you interjected. Don't do that. It's
go
not
ahead.
Now you throw me out of the points I'm making.
Based on the points we are making, I would interject based on the point. I wouldn't say I'll interject him 10 times and interject you 10 times. That's not how a conversation goes. Please go ahead, Dr. Amwa.
So now, where do I start? It's not fair.
You start from
at least you allow
importing all of these things.
You have apportioned times. Allow somebody to also speak.
Go ahead, Mr. Amwa. Time is running. Let's
if you interject me again, you ask me, so I won't stop.
Go ahead.
The country is heading where we all have to be serious. Now, even how to continue is a serious issue. Because as a moderator, let me land. Then you ask
Mr.
me a
Amwa,
question.
go ahead with your
The question you ask, I'm also asking you. Has there been any period in our country today that a time came that all of us had to stay home? Nobody should go to work. Has there been a period in our history that a time came that even after we moved out of nobody should go to work, government decided to allow 5 out of 10 people to go to work and everybody was being paid? Has there been a period like that? So you cannot compare wartime to peacetime. We have outlier situations. When Ghanaians complain, they are right, because there's hardship. But let's be honest with God and man that it is not the doing of this country. Probably the severity of it is as a result of the fact that for 40 years down to my government, we have not been really as a country position ourselves well to be independent. That one I agree. But if we don't want to go by that, I can also still say that apart from the fact that some of the parameters are bad, some are saying even better than we took over.
All right.
GDP growth was about 3.2, 3.4. Now it's about 4%. It's about 4%. Even policy rate of the government was about 25.5. Now it's 24.5.
Go ahead, but you also remember that at a point we had a GDP growth of around 14-point-something%.
You know what they handed over. That
one. Are you aware?
That one. No, but that one was the oil thing that came shortly. So what did they hand it over?
Was it a GDP?
No, my brother.
Was it a GDP percentage or not?
What?
Was it our GDP growth?
So what did they leave? Can I ask you one question? If they give Joy FM to you, and at a point you make profit of 1 billion, and the time you're handing over to me, the profit is 1 million. You say that hail me because there was a time I made. Okay. You talk about what you left.
All right.
What? No, let me finish. Because you can't say all right. You have not made me speak. Please allow me to also speak.
We don't have all the time. Do you know that you've actually spent
That is why sometimes when you call me, I don't want to come.
You've spent a lot of time.
No, but it's like because you don't let me speak. You engage me like we are doing one-on-one.
So wrap on this point so we can go.
We are doing one-on-one. It's not fair. It's not.
Go ahead.
Somebody got GDP 14, short time, and the time he handed over power, the GDP was 3.2 and you're happy with the 14. Is that what you want to compare? I'm surprised. I am saying that this government that we have today, but for this government, things would have been worse. That is a fact. Okay. Things would have been worse. If not anything at all, under Akufo-Addo's government, with all the challenges we are having, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of social intervention policies, i.e. kind and cash, talking about free school, sustaining the existing ones, they are better. Can you compare Okada to free school? Okada. You can't compare Okada. And when we met IMF, the NDC guys should come and speak. What did they say? They said that our problems we are having today is as a result of the COVID and Russian war. They said it, not us. The IMF said that. But why are we suddenly throwing away facts, the truth, and lying and speculating and behaving like the same speculators this morning on Joy News? That they were saying that, oh, there's nothing.
Joy FM?
Yes, there is no clue. There is no clue. Right on the same platform, after 5 minutes, go and listen to their own news. Oh, government says that government is now engaging the countries. Oh, let me land.
Versus. So, Mr. Dr. Boss, are you saying that when you are talking, there can't be any interjection?
No, but I can't.
What kind of conversation is that? It's not a monologue, it's a dialogue.
But what you're doing is bad.
Do you understand?
You are not making me talk. Man, you see now, you ask me.
Okay.
But when I open my mouth, you interject.
Then what I'll do is, I will limit my questions to you. I hope you will not complain about that. Go ahead.
What you're doing is not fair.
Go ahead.
No. I'm not saying don't ask me a question.
Because I can't ask you. So you go ahead, land, and then I'll move on to...
I will land right now, but maybe I'm making myself clear to you. If I open my mouth and I don't land, you wouldn't know the meaning of what I'm saying. You can change it. That's what I'm saying. I beg you.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Let me land. Then you come in. What I'm saying is that the same person or persons that they were saying that government had no clue, the same platform this morning, right now that they said that after 5 minutes, they were giving out the steps taken by the government to reduce fuel prices and stuff like that by engaging countries that the same people. So we are saying that we should also stop the bad speculation because it's not right. That is all that I'm saying. It is not right.
Have you landed?
Landing, what I'm saying is that what Akufo-Addo's government sought to do when he presented the statement, to accept the fact that there's hardship, show empathy with Ghanaians, and said that ABCD, we should stop speculations, noise on the market, because they are not helping us. 3, trying to take steps to reduce government expenditure and also make sure that steps to reduce inflationary rate and also exchange rate that is escalating. He made mention of all these things and also take another bolder step to work on discouraging importation of rice, importation of fruit juice, importation of cooking oils, and importation of poultry, and make sure that we encourage domestic as early as possible. And trust me, we are going to do that.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for landing. So some interesting points from what you just said. As I listened to you, I also took stock of the fact that when he talks about our economy and the many problems we face, you notice, for example, that from minerals to the telcos, services basically, is in the hands of foreigners. So if we're going to address these issues, we also ought to look at some of these because the tangential areas where our economy has its pillars are not even owned by us. I mean, well, now we can talk about, is it Tigo that now is in our hands? But that's a crucial area to look at. There's also, I interacted this morning with Kojo Poku, an energy analyst, who is actually going to gun for the flag bearership of your party, that is the MPP. And he says that the trades minister has failed, and all of these are knee-jerk reactions when it comes to import substitution and all of that. It's been 6 years, and there's practically nothing to show. So if we're talking about it now, rather than knee-jerk reactions, we should move beyond that. But I have a quick question for you, Dr. Amwa, before I come to Ricky Hagan and give him also enough time. So first of all, Kwabena Tewia Dakwa says, has there been a time, as you said, has there been a time in our history where there have been all of these? Kwabena Tewia Dakwa says, has there been a time in our history where we got money like we did in the COVID period? And you know about how much we got in the COVID period. Has there been a time, very quick reaction to that? I must be fair to you.
I can't come, you put me on hold when it comes to figures. But I can tell you that COVID period up to now, in terms of net gains, the country rather lost. If they don't understand. You only limit yourself to a figure, but not the obligations. And then the depressions we had in terms of our activities. Let me tell you, private sector sacked over 40,000 workers in our country, COVID time. In terms of payee, in terms of corporate taxes, we had revenue shortfalls of over 11 billion. So what happened that time, per the money we got, trust me, it was rather not what they think. It's not the figure itself.
Okay.
You can get 1 billion now, but the obligations that will be bestowed on you or you'll be confronted with will be said that somebody who got 1,000 cedis has luxury of time and resources and opportunities. So I'm telling them that the money we got and pay the obligations, okay, this is even a worse situation for Ghana.
Okay.
So they shouldn't only talk about COVID, we had money. They should talk about the fact that we had to stay home, we had to give free food, we had to do that. You were paid without not going to work. Private sector lost a lot of things. Importation, everything got so messed up. So you don't look at only the figure that we had. To end with this, go and read the PFM Act. I think is it 2016? Act, I think 181 Section 18, I've forgotten. It states 3 conditions. When there's war, when there's natural disaster, when there's health epidemic, even our fiscal rules and policies upon consultation, they should be suspended.
Right.
So the situation in which we are, if we were to do even the right thing, by going strictly to these rules, these issues about somebody spend that and that were not.
So you've given us clarity there.
One good thing is that lives were more important than even the economy. And Ghana is one of the best countries that we could reduce our mortality rate. That one, the people will not talk about.
All right, so
people will not talk about.
Let's get into this. You started talking about our currency and everything, and I'm going to give you ample time as well because I don't want any.
Nami, did you give me time?
Disparity.
You took my time.
You've spent more than twice the time he spent.
But you took.
You've not even noted
You took
that.
about 2/3 of my
come
time.
And say that
No, you took my time, boss.
So, Kweku, let's talk about the city because that's another area Mr. President spoke about. That look, all of these actions, even talking down the city, is impacting our currency. When you look at the papers we have today, I'm looking at 2 of them. Economy Times says CD begins to recover. It's fallen to 13 CDs something. But you still go out there because Kojopuku even mentioned this morning. You still go out there and some people have prices that are much higher. You look at the banks as well and the rates that some of them are giving it at. If you consider what the Bank of Ghana has pegged it at, there are distortions. There's also talk from the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry that our over-reliance on the monetary policy, hiking it up to fight inflation, is not working in terms of stabilizing the city. That's another angle. And then put that together with this. I'm just digesting this from the standpoint of the papers this morning. Minimum wage is what? 13 cedis, 53 pesos. But look at fuel prices. Diesel is almost 20 cedis. If you want fuel save super, in some places it is 17 plus, 15 plus, 16 plus. And it's the first time in our history that fuel prices have overtaken the minimum wage. How do you digest all of this?
Kafui, things are not going very well at all. This country is in crisis. And
this country is what?
It's in crisis.
The president said that.
The president admitted to that. But then this is something that we've been saying for a while. And then when you do so, they said you are talking down the country. You are creating problems, and that is why the currency is going down. We are in serious crisis. If you look at the league of all economic indicators, we are at the bottom of it. All of them.
Oh.
When you look at inflation, please.
Now, what is GDP today?
Please. Can you let me...
What is the policy?
Make your economic...
But you should also ask him.
He didn't heckle you.
No, but you should also, because you're not asking.
I should ask him questions when I couldn't ask you questions?
Because you are not
when I couldn't interject with you, but I should interject with him.
Oh my God, you're not being fair.
Those are double standards. I'm sorry.
No,
please go.
but you are rather
brother, you are not
being very impartial.
You're
being very impartial.
If I'm being impartial, then I'm doing the right thing. Please go ahead.
Yeah. After you can give him all the time because they have no solutions. So he can speak as much as you want.
You have spent power more than any where you didn't have the solution.
If you look at the league of all economic indicators, this government is actually at the bottom of all of them. If you take inflation, we are at the bottom. If you take the currency, we are the worst performing currency. If you take our debt has gone beyond sustainable level. If you take our interest rates, they are rising. There's nothing good about what is going on in this country at the moment. Yet, all the countries that we compare ourselves with also suffered COVID and Ukraine war. The latest I have heard, and I think is my brother Kojo or Upon Nkrumah who said it yesterday, they are now also talking about
downsizing.
China, Taiwan, what is going on there, the geopolitics going on there. So I can see where the blame is going to be shifted very soon, into China, Taiwan, geopolitics. Now, they have no solution. They have no plan. They have no strategy in solving the challenges that we have at the moment.
So you're saying that all that the Bank of Ghana is doing and the central bank is part of government?
I'm coming to that.
You're talking about the cuts in salaries, the 30% cuts for the executive and all of that. It means nothing. Those are policies, right?
Right. Let me answer that. Inadequate policies, fantasies, wishful thinking is what this government has embarked on. And that is why we are not getting any result. The president's address 2 days ago was just a wishful thinking. Things that we know about, things that we've been talking about over the years. They've been in office for 6 years. I wouldn't say they've been in power, because they've been in office but not in power. They are not in charge. They really don't have any clue what is going on, and that is why they don't have solutions. I told you earlier on when we started this conversation that this government, this president, lacks policy credibility. The citizens have lost hope. There is no confidence in our government. The investors or creditors who lend money to us have no hope that we will be able to repay them. When you talk about these things, they want to gag you. They say you are talking the country down. Now, if I give an alternative economic view to what or how I see things, they said you are anti-Ghanaian or you are not patriotic. They are not ready to listen to anyone. President Mahama gave an address a few days ago before the president, and he gave a number of solutions. I am glad again when I was listening to Honorable Kojo Upon Nkrumah saying yesterday that he listened to President Mahama and Honorable Atufosun's presentation. I'm glad to hear that. I hope that in their quiet time, they will look at the things that President Mahama talked about, the solutions, the low-hanging fruits that this government can pick and try and bring relief.
Highlight some of those solutions
to the Ghanaians.
For those who didn't follow the conversation.
I'll come to that in a second. Let me deal with this and then again. Because the solutions, they don't listen. And then they will say, what are we going to do? We have said a number of things. Now, let's deal with this government before we come to what are our solutions. Because the problem, you did ask me, the currency issue has not been dealt with properly. And it is the biggest problem facing this country at the moment. Even when crude, the reason why we are in this high fuel prices and all that, they will say, as a result of Russia-Ukraine war, yes, let's admit to an extent, in addition to their own mismanagement. But the issue then becomes, crude prices were around over 100 or something. Now crude prices are coming down. When the oil price comes down, we still don't get any relief. And why? It is because of the currency. So when prices are going up, when crude prices are going up, oil prices at the pump are going up. But when they are coming down, you will expect, because the relationship is more or less directly proportional. Therefore, if it's going up and the pump is going up, you understand it. But when the crude is coming down, the pump is not going down. Because of this terrible situation that we are in with our currency being the worst performing currency around. And the solutions that the president talked about were all things that they are not doing. Now, let's take the Bank of Ghana issue that we were talking about. Because the government has basically given up on bringing any proper fiscal measures to address the problem, the Bank of Ghana on the monetary side will have to act. And so you can't fault the Bank of Ghana too much, but they are doing the work that should be done by government in addressing the fiscal challenges that is causing inflation to rise.
The Bank of Ghana is doing government work.
Yes, it's doing government work. It's using, Bank of Ghana is trying to use monetary policy to address a problem that is fiscal. And that is where we are today. The reason why is the Bank of Ghana increasing policy rate? Simply because the Bank of Ghana is trying to keep inflation in check.
Okay.
And it's not working.
Quick question on that. We've spoken about the inflationary rate and what the GNCCI is saying, but there's also this discourse. Professor Steve Hank, Johns Hopkins University, has brought it up. He's been lambasting Ghana for our economy. And recently I saw one of our professors also corroborate this. Do we need a currency board, in which instance we'll take away those powers from the central bank and give it to this currency board? It's a bit of an extreme option, but some countries operate on that system. Do we need that?
Well, at this stage, I don't want to talk about currency board and that here. We have a system, which is pretty much the system you have in many places, that are working for them. The central bank is supposed to be independent and is supposed to be dealing with financial stability and monetary policy. The government is supposed to handle the fiscal side of things, and the two of them should collaborate to manage this economy. At the moment, the economy on the fiscal side is on autopilot, while on the monetary side, the Bank of Ghana is trying to steer the Ghana's economy, but actually holding the wrong levers in the cockpit. So the wrong levers, that is the interest rate, the aggressive interest rate approach to addressing inflation, is itself creating a lot of problems, while the government sits and watch and do nothing. And they talk about fantasies, talking about increasing, what is it called? Let's come to the consolidation side. They want to increase revenue. Yes, we've all known that our revenue levels are low, 13% or whatever, when you compare to our peers that are doing 18, 20. Now, what are they going to do to actually prop up this revenue? Then he talks about property taxes. This one was said in the budget of November 2021 budget. From January to date, nothing has been done on that. In a crisis that we are in, property taxes is not your solution. These are long-term things that we need to do. We all understand that. And you did mention some. So there is a misalignment of the solutions being provided, which I say are wishful thinking, to the current problems that we have. Okay. It tells you clearly that the government does not understand the economic challenges that we have at the moment. And for that matter, they are giving us solutions that actually are not working.
Okay, so solutions not fit for purpose. I just want to add this. It is downsizing part of the solution? Because people have spoken about it, the number of ministers and deputies. I had KKD, Kwesi J. join me in the studio yesterday. He said all the deputies should be done away with. Now we've heard Kojo Ponkroma say that there is going to be some consideration of downsizing. He mentioned that. What is your take on it?
You did ask me what solutions Professor former President Mahama preferred.
I know he spoke about
and this is one of them. And you remember when I was speaking, I said low-hanging fruit. One of the low-hanging fruits is the ministers. Talking about this 30% cut and all that. Look, this government has actually not been able to cost anything. The reason why we are in this mess is that this government started with a lot of flagship programs that they could not cost. Look, anywhere in the world, any jurisdiction, before a policy issue is put across, they actually cost it. How much is it going to save us? Now the question is, they have not been able to even tell us that the current 30% that they claim to be collecting from ministers and appointees, nobody has been able to tell us how much they intend to get. I don't even care what they want to use it for, but how much savings are we going to be making? Now, they're supposed to have done it for some months now. They can't even tell us how much they have collected.
Right.
They talk about discretionary expenditures being cut. How much have you been able to save the country? And even, I don't again care what you have used that money for, but you've made such savings. So this is one of the things that President Mahama was talking about. That look, if you cut, what there is going to be, some ministries are not necessary. They could merge some of the ministries. Some places with 2 or 3 deputy ministers, you have no idea what they are doing. You remember President when he came to office first, he said he needed that number of ministers. That time they were about 100 or so.
He said he was a man in a hurry and he needed the hands on deck.
We have found out that he was actually in a hurry, but in a hurry to nowhere. Where is the destination?
All right.
So we have no idea. Then the other thing I want to...
So quickly on that. I want to go back to Dr. Amwa.
I have talked about the debt issue, but to end on the debt issue, he tells us, at the moment we are being told that our debt is over 500 billion, okay? And then at the end of the year, debt to GDP is over 100, by 104. You come and tell us, which again is a wishful thinking, we all wish that that is the case. For our debt to be sustainable, we are working towards bringing debt to GDP to 55%. Now, between 2022 and 2028 is a very long time. The gap in between, what exactly are you going to be doing for us to be able to achieve that? Are you going to do that using the fiscal measures in terms of cutting our expenditure as you increase our revenue? Because don't forget that our debt does not stand still. Every year as we accumulate deficit, our debt also goes up. So now, a solution you will need is to address the existing debt as much as also controlling the deficit that accumulates to become debt.
All right.
So, and finally on that one, we don't have anything about how this is going to be achieved. I'm hoping that the finance minister will come to read the budget and tell us exactly how that...
Definitely with those things, the details will have to come in the budget.
And you say you are not going to do a haircut, you are not going to do this. So are you achieving that through fiscal measures or are you achieving that through debt restructuring?
That's an interesting question, and that's the very next angle I'll go to Dr. Amwa on. So, Dr. Amwa, I'm going to do it this way so that no one feels aggrieved. I'm giving you 4 minutes for these 2 questions. I'll come to him and give him the same time. Are we going to get a haircut or not?
So
is it a blanket
he has
statement?
more time, so he spoke first.
Dr. Amwa,
or have you forgotten?
Please, let's do this. I'm
No,
moderating.
but I know.
So
but
let me just do
don't say
this.
nobody can complain when you know the other person is not being given the same.
I am not an autocrat. You can definitely complain. But I'm saying that, first of all, are we getting a haircut or not? What would it look like? And secondly, okay, you answer
the president said we are not getting a haircut. So I think it answers.
I'm only asking because economic watchers have said that the way things are going, there's no way we cannot get a haircut. So we
the
should
president
just
came and spoke, and he said that there's not going to be any haircut. So I think I'll take the president's statement. It's more serious than any other external stakeholder.
Are you aware that Information Minister Kojo Nkrumah has said that the president's statement is not a blanket statement on the haircut?
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
Thank you. Boss, I think I want to address 2 issues this morning. One, very professional way. The second one, the misconception and the incorrect statement my brother made, that everything is at the bottom. In fact, post-COVID inflation rate increase. Togo, we've had 16%. Senegal, we have 11%. Cote d'Ivoire, we have 7%. Ghana, we have 5%. So he should go and do his work very well. Globally, we've had averagely 300%. UK, we have about 400%. US, we have almost 400%. I don't want to even do country to country because he did that. And 2, the thing he said, former President Mahama said, that we should cut down expenditure, we should downsize. Is it what you're talking about? This thing that everybody's lip is on it. A year after year, even before this crisis, before COVID, is that what we had to get from the former president with all the experience if he's bringing something new on board.
But please,
don't go there.
Quick add-on.
Coming back to,
is saying it and it's not being done. Can't you re-echo it?
Who told you it's not being done?
No.
The
downsizing of
government. But when we
example.
took over, then you should even want to do politics. What we took over.
What is politics? It's a question.
No, I'm talking about general. Please, why is it that I'm the one engaging that way? What I'm saying is that if we want to go this way, then that is where we do the comparisons. Then when you do, they say, oh, we are not interested in that. We took over a country that we're not having COVID. We're not having Russian war. Prices of goods and services on the world market was below 2%. Now it's about 10%. What was the inflation they left us? What was the GDP growth? Government even interest rate was higher than lending rate that time. It was about 25.5. So don't even go in there. They have no even thing to talk about it because they are the poorest managers of the economy all time. And it's a fact. The facts are there. But let me come back to this issue. Bank of Ghana, on your own platform here, I spoke a couple of times. When the NDC brothers were there, I spoke on TV3 about 3 different times that the application of the monetary policy tool, we must review it as a country. When you want to use monetary policy tool to deal with inflation, he knows what I'm talking about. First, you need to analyze the causes of inflation first. Whether it is cost push or it is demand pull. If it is cost push, you don't necessarily increase policy rate because you aggravate the problem. In financial economics or strategic money, you call something strategic drift. That sometimes the very solution you're proposing will rather aggravate the problem because Ghana's economy predominantly is not by equity financing, debt financing. So interest rate is very key.
So in other words, you agree with the GNCC?
Yes, I think
you agree with them?
Yes, what I heard Bank of Ghana saying is that they wanted to target exchange rate on news file when I encountered them. The exchange rate is not working. Now I heard that they think if they hadn't done that, the situation would have been worse, which is also possible. But if we take those steps like 3-4 times, and the very target areas are worsening, at least you either stay there or you come back. So I think monetary policy should be adjusted upwards when the cause of inflationary rate is demand pool, circulation of money. People are buying, there's happiness. Then you do that to withdraw money. But when it is from supplier's end, you don't increase another cost variable which comes from the supply source. So I think I agree with them.
So the Bank of Ghana, in a way, is getting it wrong. It's tackling the problem from the wrong side.
Bank of Ghana's hands are tight now because the situation is very complex. It's not the way people are doing politics with it. I'm being honest with you. Because if maybe they have also not done that, what would have been the situation? But if I were...
That's the same thing he suggests. He suggests that things that should have been done by government are not being done. And
no,
so now
not government.
The central... No, you're not getting me. Now the central bank has had to come in to do government work.
No, what he says is wrong. Ghana government does not control and calibrate monetary policy. He doesn't... Maybe he knows because he's a very good guy, but because maybe politics.
Obviously, the central bank does that.
Central bank, so you can say it's government, right? But where I disagree with the Central Bank of Ghana is that the very parameters you are taking this decision to resolve, to mitigate their impact, they keep on worsening. The same thing happened with them. When they started increasing policy rate, I agree with them, and it was going up. And it went to 25.5, and inflation went up to 15.4 from a single digit. So we need to look at that as a country. But if he says we are not doing anything about it, I am very much surprised because this government had a cut in its expenditure. You remember about 20%. And now we are doing about 30%. But the question is whether that is enough to mitigate what is happening. It is gradual. It is process. And I can assure Ghanaians, with the leadership of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and our economic management team led by Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the same people were doing 7% annually for 3-4 years. They were doing 7.4 inflationary rate for a long time. They had reduced interest rate from almost 40% to 20%. They had reduced policy rate from 25.5 to about 12.5. Reserve had been increased from 5.8 to 7.4 to 4.3 months. He knows. And something came in. But I can assure Ghanaians that we are praying that this global crisis will really go down and the same government that has been doing all this will restore our economy and put hope and smile. But now we agree that there's hardship, they are right to complain, and just as the president did, we are illustrating empathy And you saw in the whole speech setup of the
Dr.
president.
Amar, thank you for those.
Ghana government today shares the pain all of us are going in, and
right.
that is a fact.
Let me quickly do this. I have a follow-up question for you, but let me also bring in Guta. There have been meetings in recent days with the AGI, the Association of Ghana Industries, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, and also the importers and exporters. Well, one of them, Guta, from all that they've said so far, they feel disappointed that Mr. President in his address on Sunday didn't address some of their core issues. Let me bring in president of that group, Dr. Joseph Obeng. Dr. Obeng, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
It's a pleasure having you on the show. Now, I know you've probably followed what has been happening in the studio and all the talk, industry and all that. I'd just like to find out from you. First off, quick takeaways in about 30 seconds. What Mr. President said, how did it hit you? Was it positive? That is on Sunday. And moving forward, what are some of the things that can be done to address your issues? Because the CD is still where it is. It may have appreciated a bit against the American greenback and a few other currencies. But what picture do you still have? You recently had to shut down your shops. Paint a picture for us.
First of all, I'm very happy that the exercise that we undertook by closing our shops have provoked national discourse, public discourse, to the extent that the first gentleman of the state has also responded very quickly, meeting all stakeholders and all of us also preferring some workable solutions. And he himself admits that his encounter with us have been very encouraging. What President did on Sunday inspires a lot of hope. I don't know where you get your information that we did not, we are disappointed with he did.
I've just forgotten his name. I listened to him on 99.7, and that was exactly what he said, that there were no concrete. Dr. Amar, please allow me to do this because
I haven't said anything.
Someone did say those things. So the face making in the studio is not helpful.
Yeah.
Dr. Obeng, so that is the point I'm making. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. But we are very much impressed because, the reason why we closed down our shops was to provoke national discourse and also to give a pinch to the government that there's sense of urgency in the problem that we're encountering. And so for the president to have come and articulate his policy guidelines is quite inspiring, and it actually inspires hope. The fact that he actually said that there's fresh injection of funds into the system have also helped in bringing down the exchange rate. And it's very encouraging, and we support it. With the medium term and the long term, regarding of trade diversification. Those things came from our very selves, that we want to even divert into other areas like export and all that. So for us to venture into other areas like exports and the manufacturing and all that, being sufficient, self-sufficient, to the extent that we do not bring everything from abroad, is quite in line with our own policy of income in, income out, because we want to sell goods outside and then also bring the proceeds of our sales to bring the goods so that we shore up the forest. So with regards to the forest bureaus being streamlined, it's also very much in tune with some of our recommendations. That we have noticed that there's a cartel being formed in the black marketeering, and that the government should clamp down on those black market area. And that's exactly what he's also trying to do. But what we do not agree is where they said that prices are going up, and it's because of the some attitude of the traders. That one, I cannot agree with it, because government's own commitment is not showing, because they promised us to peg the dollar for the purposes of clearance of goods. And having given us this assurance, they have not been able to implement it as of now that I'm speaking. And if the dollar rate keep changing by customs, then it means that prices will be going up. As I'm speaking, benchmark values have been increased to over 60%. And then if you increase this by way of policy or tax policies, and then you expect prices to go down, no. Because we are now Father Christmas. We benchmark our prices with all these things. The exchange rates, we benchmark with this, and then the cost. Let me talk about VAT. It used to be 3%, and now VAT have moved from 3% to standard rate of 19.25, an increment of 16%. So this accumulation of cost is what we see in the market, and not that people deliberately overprice themselves in the market. It's not even possible at this time of competition for anybody to overprice.
So when the president says he hesitates to call you names, and then he makes mention of the fact, like we see banner headline of the Daily Guide today, that he is warning traders on greedy profits. Greedy profits. You disagree with him?
I disagree totally, because government's own commitment, where is it? They have given us the assurance that they are going to peg the dollar for the purposes of duty payment. At this time that we have a seeming crisis on our hand, that the exchange rate is going up, what government can do and do best is to peg the dollar for the purposes of clearance of goods, so that the duty payment will be stabilized, at least in all this. And they don't have the commitment to do this, even though they have actually promised when the Kumasi, our affiliates in Kumasi, close down their shops, and then we try to find solutions. And so government's own commitment in this regard is very paramount, and it should not be said that traders are greedy. In fact, this is one of the major reasons that we close down our shops, just to communicate to the consuming public that we are not the cause of price hikes.
Okay.
We've been there before.
Right.
When, governments have called us recalcitrant traders, profiteering traders, calibule, and all that. We are not going to sit down for those descriptions to be lumped on us. It's dangerous. It means that the public is being incited against us.
So you fundamentally disagree with Mr. President on that point?
Yes. But all other things, I totally agree with you.
Let me ask you.
The fact that we have to go along and then consume made in Ghana goods. In fact, if you have self-sufficiency in all these goods, there's no sense for any trader to travel outside and find foreign exchange, come and pay duty and all that. So whatever that we can do to ensure productivity locally, and so that we have this self-sufficiency, so that we can patronize our own goods, is very much welcomed. And then we can also take some of these goods and export. That's the only surest way forward.
All right.
To industrialize our economy.
Quick question on import substitution. We've heard the CEO of the Private Enterprises Federation talk about imposing import licensing on the back of what Mr. President said. How feasible is it? You, Guta, you do a lot of importation. You are practically importing everything. How feasible is it for some of those productive areas of our economy when Mr. President says we should have homegrown solutions? What do you think of that?
Yeah, what I've said is that we say we do excessive importation. That is correct. We do excessive importation, but we have a solution to this. We have to use the investment laws, because the local stake in this excessive importation is negligible, about 15 to 20%. The rest is coming from those foreigners who have the bulk of the money, the China malls and all that, who are dumping the goods and taking the goods left and right. And that we should use our investment law to control this. But when we say that our problem is structural, and the fact that excessive importation is key to this, let's not also close our eyes on the service sector that is taking a chunk of resources from this country, where the Ghanaian share is very negligible. We don't have a stake in the service industry, communication, banking. Where is our stake? And all this turns up a huge profit and it being repatriated home to their home countries. So much as we are talking about importation, let's not forget that the huge or the bulk of the problem come from this service sector, where they do not turn into productivity in itself, and that they take the chunk of our resources through these services and send their this in home. So we have to use our investment law to drive the foreign direct investment to more preferred area of manufacturing and then agriculture, the industrialization in general, rather than these easy areas, which also turns the bulk of the resources and they take it, the extractive industry. What is our stake in the extractive industry? So we're saying that we should use the investment law so that we can have retention policy. So that,
Dr. Obeng, hold for me. I know I'll give you some 40 seconds to give your final thoughts because you are re-echoing things you've said already. But I'm only going to let you hold because Dr. Amwa has a quick reaction to something you said. I want him to come in so that in case you have a reaction, you can just wrap up with that. So Dr. Amwa, quickly.
It's not what he said. What the president said about sort of profiteering culture we have, that he is also showing so much concern. I think I said this, and I want to emphasize because your platform is so big. We need to quickly do mixed market economy instead of free market economy.
Right.
That will solve the problem now. There are areas you can allow free market to compete and it will control prices. And we have oligopoly, monopoly, cartel. We can use price caps. Even the developed economies, they do that. So I'm telling my own people and then the market to come together and find a way of making sure
the MPP and the traders.
Yes.
Right.
And so that where there's cartel or oligopoly or monopoly, we should accept price range or cap, not restricting prices, so that we deal away with that absolute.
So you're not talking price regulation per se. That's not what you're saying.
Not at all. Okay. But where people have undue advantage in the system to exercise profiteering, that will affect us, such as oligopoly. Only two people or two companies have access to goods and certain defined goods and services, or one person which is monopoly or cartel, a few people. That one, we should step in and come out with price range or caps. It's done everywhere. Right. And the last one is, I agree with him, but I don't have all the information. So quickly, Ghana authority, who is in charge of duties and other things, should come and let us know. Why are we charging them in dollars? I'm not saying it's wrong or right because I don't have information. If somebody sent things from Ghana to UK, I don't think they pay duty in cedis.
Right.
So we should find out and then iron out these things and define the common grounds.
So Dr. Obeng, you have some 40 seconds. Final thoughts, and then we shall say goodbye.
Okay. So thank you, Stiga, for that. You know that the market, the competition out there in the market does not make it possible for somebody to overprice himself out of the market. And we'll be very happy. We will be very happy to sit down with government to put the line of cost accumulation from import to duty payment, the about 19 item lines at the port that we pay. And when we do this calculation, maybe they will run away and then leave us behind, because in that case they will see how we are suffering in terms of taxes and then the cost that is being lumped on us. So let them come on board, because we support our customers, and it is the reason why we lock down our shops, and we are not wicked and we are not self-centered. We told the customers that we are not the cause of the price hikes. Then pegging the dollar is now becoming like a rocket science, where you have given your own word that you are going to peg the dollar for 3 months. We are unable to do that, and you are expecting prices to come down, where you have increased benchmark values to about 60%. Then you are expecting. So government uncommitted is also needed here. Matters we also have to do our best to satisfy the consuming public.
All right. Yeah. So you have a role to play, and you're saying government's commitment is also needed. Dr. Joseph Obeng, thank you so much for joining us this morning. He is president of GUTA, the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Let me come back into the studio. Now, Kweku, there is this situation that we have to deal with, because the economy is one of those issues that, whether we are talking the politics or we are talking about bread and butter matters, is on the minds of everybody.
Yeah.
The latest Afrobarometer survey reveals that 87% of Ghanaians say the country is headed in the wrong direction. And the economy is part of that. While only 11.5% of respondents answered that they believed the country was heading in the right direction. That is the first point. On the back of that, what do you think we should be seeing in the next few weeks and months as far as our economy is concerned? Because this definitely is not positive news.
The economy is heading in the wrong direction. And the statement you just read in the Finder basically just confirms it. What needs to happen, first and foremost, is for our government to restore its own credibility. As I said earlier, nobody believes in this government, and nobody believes in the president when he says things, whether to do with policy or any, some of the statements that he makes. Now, why should anybody believe the president? For instance, that there will be no haircut. When the same president and the same government says that we will not go to IMF, we are a proud nation, all the things they said about IMF, in the end, they ended up there. The issue is not about going to the IMF. The issue is about shooting yourself in the foot before you enter the room. And the president saying that there will not be a haircut does not mean there wouldn't be, because nobody believes the president on that. The other thing is that you don't preempt negotiations before they even happen. There was no need for the president to come on and say he was ill-advised to say that there will be a no haircut, to stop people who were speculating that there's going to be a haircut. There was a better way to do that. Another thing I want to touch on, and these are that you talk about bread and butter issues. Currency, number one, is causing a lot of problems that we are facing today. Fuel prices is another one. We talked about, the crude and all that. What government is not doing is the government, from the very onset, when we started having this problem, some of us were even asking the government to use the windfall on the other side to support. They didn't do that. They left things. Now the president is telling us something which I find quite interesting, that they are negotiating, or they are talking to people in terms of how they can negotiate a much cheaper, I don't know.
Yeah. So for the crude oil.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, the question is, I'm not really quite sure what he's talking about. Is he talking about crude oil, or he's talking about finished product?
That's another question. Because this morning I interacted with Kojo Poku again, an energy analyst, and he was also not too clear about what exactly it would mean and where we would even get that from.
What we have done in the past, because crude, basically, when you're talking about crude, you are thinking about a country. If you want to get crude, you can get it from Nigeria, Venezuela, wherever you can get it from. We have done this in the past. I believe it happened in Rawlings' time when Kufuor was actually involved. Rawlings asked Kufuor and others to go and negotiate for us to get, crude from Nigeria. Kufuor himself, I believe, also did that. And then, we do this kind of things to be able to get crude. Now, the question is, the problem we have at the moment is that Ghana is an oil-producing nation. We have joined the ranks of oil-producing nations. We don't basically add any value to the oil. We sell it. We have Tor that is not functioning. Is it possible that we can actually get Tor on its feet so that part of the crude that we send out can actually be processed here so we can consume it as a finished product? It will definitely be cheaper than for the president to go and negotiate somewhere to get us a crude that I don't know where they're going to refine it from. Okay, if the president is talking about refined product are found in countries that even don't produce oil. These are commercial issues. It is not like crude where you say Nigeria has oil or this country has refined product. You can get it anywhere, even where they don't produce oil. It's a commercial, entirely commercial. We have deregulated. In the past, it's the government that goes and bring all these things. Now we have the BDCs doing that. And then they bring it, pass it on to the OMCs, and then what is the government going to do? They still say that they're going to stick with the deregulation. So now is the government going to take the business out of the hands of the BDCs and then go and bring the finished product? Because I don't know if the BDCs are in part of this negotiation that is going on with whoever is going to supply us this cheap, finished product or whatever. So there is no clarity in what the president and this government is saying. It creates more uncertainty. If you want to know what brings speculation, speculation comes as a result of not having clarity, of not being certain, that your policies are not watertight. For that reason, people are able to speculate. If your policies are watertight, there wouldn't be any room for anybody to speculate. So if you want to know who is talking the economy down, it is actually the government itself. As a result of lack of clarity and uncertainty, is talking the economy down, not other people who are standing somewhere else, speculating.
Right. So
and they have the right to.
I will. You would have to hold your horses there. I know you have. We have another guest on the line, but I just wanted to. So you're saying that basically government, through its own actions and inactions, is the one talking the currency down, not all of these other factors.
Because
the black market and all of that.
When you don't have the black market and all that come as a result of not having clarity, if you leave room and you are not dealing with the currency problems, the black market is just a natural thing that will come out of that.
Right.
If you are not dealing with your debt, then certain things that we are facing comes as a result of that.
Okay.
If you are not dealing with the fiscal things that you need to, and we said this earlier on, when we talk about Bank of Ghana's responsibility is monetary. We know that. We know financial stability and all that. But why are we getting inflation? You can talk about Russia-Ukraine war and all that. It's because the government is failing to deal with, he rightly said, the inflation we're experiencing started from cost and supply side. It wasn't a demand-driven inflation. Therefore, the natural tools or the natural levers that Bank of Ghana usually will use to address that problem doesn't come in here. But the government is not using the fiscal levers or the fiscal tools that it has to deal with the problem. Therefore, the problem then becomes inflationary. Okay. And for that matter, Bank of Ghana will have to come in to mop up a mess that should have been cleared by the fiscal side.
Thank you. Let me bring in two industry people who join the conversation. We have Samson Asaki Awengobit, who joins the conversation, just as Dr. Joseph Obeng did. We also have Seth Chum Akwabwa, who is CEO, Association of Ghana Industries. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
Good morning.
All right. So now we're talking industry. We're talking about the economy, but industry, because all of you, we just had an interaction with Dr. Joseph Obeng of GUTA, the AGI, exporters and importers. You're all engaging, Mr. President, on what the way forward is for our economy. And you are the drivers of our economy. So let me start with you, Samson Asaki Awengobit. I'd like to find out, on the back of what Mr. President said on Sunday, his address on the economy, and your engagement so far, how hopeful are you? Dr. Obeng says he is hopeful, but he has his own grievances. How about you, as far as imports and exports are concerned?
Well, thank you very much. And let me say a very big good morning to my colleague and brother at AGI, Mr. Akwaba there, and then the two honorable members in your studio there, and to my senior brother and senior comrade, Dr. Joseph Obeng as well, and your viewers. I must say that we all listened to the president on Sunday, and if you ask me my candid opinion, I will say, so let me limit it to my industry, isn't it? So that we can discuss it dispassionately. President made mention of certain commodities that there's a need for his government to take a keenly look at it. and he's talking about giving timelines from now to May next year. I don't know whether review is to ban or review is to cut off the volumes of imports into the country until they give us the nitty-gritty of it. However, where I sit, I strongly believe that currently as it is better that there is food in town, but people can't buy, than to say we will go and take a decision, and tomorrow the people will be carrying money and have no food to buy, which the government would buy or will not be sending us. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the government will not be able to send us back to 83 again. That's not what we are talking about. Because quite clearly, if you look at the statistics, rice imported into this country, what is the percentage of or per ton that is being brought into this country? It's ringing out between 700,000 to 800,000 metric tons per year. Is that not it? And these are all consumed in the country. Now, we are all aware that our Ghanaian rice producers have a challenge, and that challenge that they are having at the end of the day is because they are paying or they are financing full cost of it, and the government is doing virtually nothing to leverage their situation. And cost of borrowing in this country is so high. In 2020, 2021 farming season, government subsidized for farmers with fertilizer input 50% in 2020. In 2021, it was 30%. In this year farming season, the government subsidized only 15%. And that is why we have all the Peasant Farmers Association and other farmers, bodies, and organizations, including poultry producers, are all complaining about the cost of production. And I'm quite sure that if you go to my brother, Mr. Chum, he will tell you that their membership are also struggling with the cost of production in this country. Now, what we even produce here, let's take one by one. Rice. What is the metric tons that Ghanaian rice producers have? We are bringing in 700,000 to 800,000 metric tons. Do we have up to 500,000 metric tons or 600,000 metric tons? Yes, if we have 500,000 or 600,000 metric tons of rice in Ghanaian market, being Ghanaian rice, local rice being produced in this country, then I support the government to say, okay. No.
Hello? Hello, Samson? We appear to be losing Samson Asake Awengo bit. Let me bring in Seth Chum Akwabwa, who is CEO Association of Ghana Industry. So quite a number of points made by Samson. But for you, what are your takeaways from the president's address? And how hopeful are you about our economy bouncing back, moving forward for the AGI?
Well, thank you very much. And let me also greet your panelists and your viewers. The point is that when it comes to the issue of hope, I always say that the last thing we should do as a nation and as a people is to give up hope. So we should be hopeful. And we've had His Excellency the President speaking to us. And I think that we should be hopeful of what he says, and let's see how we support him to deliver. Because when we're going through these challenges, it affects all of us. And therefore, we have a responsibility to work with him and make sure that we succeed. So we are hopeful of what he has promised to do, except that the rhetoric is not enough. We need to move into action. And I believe that is what we should be talking about. And then the question of the issues discussed with us, my take. I think first of all, he talking to us was good because we needed His Excellency the President to speak to us like he did during the COVID period, to speak, to bring hope to the people. At some point, I believe that part of the reason why we were having this fast depreciation of the cedi was because there was a lot of speculation. People were uncertain about the developments. So people who do not even need foreign currency or dollar would go and buy and hide behind under their pillows because they want to preserve their wealth. Now, if you take out that speculation element, even though we know that the cedi is depreciating, it shouldn't be depreciating this fast. So that is one fact. So speaking to us, for us, was very important and giving us hope that they are, and giving us an idea of the effort that is being made to resolve the issues. It was very important. Before he speaking to us, remember he met AGI and other stakeholders. And indeed, when we met, we spoke about some of these challenges And I'm happy he's acknowledging that we are in difficult times and industries and businesses are really complaining. So these are indeed challenging times. On the content, the key thing that from industry side I will pick is the issue of local production being enhanced and in order to reduce imports. Now, this is not new to us. As for AGI, that has been our number one advocate all this while, that we need to step up our local production, put in every effort to support local producers and reduce the imports, because the import volumes is so high that it is also putting a lot of pressure on our local currency. We know there are certain things there's nothing we can do, we have to import. But for essential products and products that we have local capacity, we should be able to enhance the capacity.
Like which ones and how quickly can we get there? Like which ones and how quickly can we get there? Is it rice? What is it?
Yes, President mentioned a couple of products, and there's a lot more we can add. As a matter of fact, ADI, yesterday we met. We are already doing a listing of the products. But the few ones that he mentioned, like the rice, like the sugars, like the oils, these are basic, the fruit drinks that we take so much of imports into the country, whilst we can produce them locally. So there are so many products that we can do, essential things that are critical for our survival. We should be self-sufficient. We should be self-dependent. When COVID happened, you remember at some point when the countries were locking up their doors, we all got scared because we import so much. And if you don't have the inflows coming, it becomes a problem. So what we should be doing and how fast, the question of how fast. This question has come up all the time, that do we have local capacity? Do we have local capacity? The point is that you cannot build local capacity overnight. And the fact that you may not have 100% capacity today does not mean you should not start at all. Otherwise, you will never also start. So you need to create conditions to create demand for the local products. And then the businesses will step up to the plate and raise their production volumes to meet the demand.
So quick question. The Association of Ghana Industries.
So how fast?
The AGI, your membership, are you ready to take up the challenge? Are you ready? If government, if the market, gives us that space, are you ready to meet the demand? Are you putting yourself in pole position?
Very much so. Very much so. Our people are business people. Every businessman who invests, your aim is to get return on your investment. If there's an opportunity to expand and get more returns, you will do so. So as for the readiness, they are ready. But the readiness boils down to a couple of things. It's not you as an individual enterprise being ready. It also depends a lot on the system. So for example, you are ready to expand, but if you go to a bank and you are not getting access to medium to long-term facility, your readiness is nothing. You need to have those facilities available. If you are borrowing at 30% and 35% and 25%, how can you do long-term investment? So the readiness is not only dependent on the individual entrepreneur, it also depends on the system. If electricity cost is so high, even if you are ready, you are being competed out because others are having cheaper sources of electricity. So all this comes into play. For the readiness, the companies are ready because they are business people. They want to cash in, they want to make business. I think what is important is that we appreciate the fact that overnight you cannot increase capacity by 100%. It doesn't happen anywhere. Even the rice we're talking about, and we mentioned some of the products. You cannot, the next month, have all the rice you want because you need to grow the rice before you can mill. And in growing it takes a bit of time. You need to get the resources, you need to get the farms prepared and produce an order. So you cannot overnight change the dynamics. That's why you have to start planning now, so that in the next year, 2 years, you start seeing gradual improvement, and then you can cash in and then become self-sufficient in a lot of the products that we are talking about.
Mr. Akakpo, just in some 30 seconds then, we see the CD appreciating against the dollar, for example. How positive has that impact been, at least in the last day or two, for your members in terms of the work you do? And what then is the way forward, especially as you're engaging the presidency on some of these matters? In some 30, 40 seconds.
Yes, I think that the slight improvement we've seen is good. First of all, what we are aiming at now is to have stability. We know growth will take a while to come about, but stability is key at this stage. And then it's when you have a bit of stability, it takes out the speculative element. So any adjustment or increase is actually real increase, which means you have to work at it and then meet those conditions. So a bit of stability is important. Engaging government, we are looking at what we can do to continuously have this stability and then gradually work towards reducing the imports as we've said. And already, AGI, as I said, we've already met. We are looking at the list of products. We have to be engaging government and say, for these products, we have these companies with this level of capacity. These are their requirements or their needs in order to increase the volume that they produce. When we do so, what do we do to also reduce the imports? And then when it comes to currency, even rationing or whatever, I know we operate a free market system, but Bank of Ghana can intervene and give the foreign currency to specific companies who are importing essential products that are raw material inclined and products that are of necessity. When we do all that, then it means we are actually managing the system. And I'm sure with that, we should see some light at the end of the day. I believe we shouldn't give up hope. We should work hard and work strategically.
Okay.
And we should bring things to normalcy in the near future.
Mr. Akwaboah, thank you very much. Seth Chum Akwaboah is CEO, Association of Ghana Industries. I'm coming back into the studio now to wrap with my guests who are here seated. Member of Parliament for Ishiaso, also on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Stephen Amwa. We also have Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South, who also is a former Deputy Finance Minister, Kweku Ricketts-Hagan. Both of them are in the studio. I want us to look at a number of issues, so I'll give you 2.5 minutes each. First of all, we've heard Ken Ofori-Atta tell us that the budget reading is going to take place at around November 15. We are in the month of November. The month has started. We're still deliberating an IMF package. What is the way forward, and what will be the role of Parliament in resolving this situation? For you, when I come to you, Dr. Amwa, I would also like to add, you were not one of those ministers and members of Parliament who pushed for
this. How did you know? Do you have the list?
Ken Ofori-Atta, well,
do you have the list?
You said something to me in private, so at least I can hold on to that. If not, then I'll ask you then as a question. No, then I'll ask you then as a question. No, were you one of those who felt that the position of the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta is no longer tenable, and so you joined the 80? If not, why? You can give me your thoughts.
Why this question
on that? It's a question. You can choose to answer it or not.
If you say no, what you are doing is so unethical. Because if you say that, what I said,
okay,
I will put it in the public domain.
Sure.
My position has been that, one, we have resolved going forward with the president. Okay, but I think if we say that Ofori-Atta should go, people who do politics with it, that, okay, then you people have accepted that you haven't worked the economy, you have failed. That is why I have a different position on that.
So the question isn't even about this. It's just about, do you think Ken Ofori-Atta should stay? And I don't know why.
But we said a lot of things that I think we are discussing. And everybody knows in this country today, the MPs, we all met the president. We agreed that at least we should wait for IMF and then the budget should be dealt with, because they are very pressing issue now. So we have resolved not to even speak to these issues. But if we don't take care, we will do something that the public will come back at us and say, I even told you that, if you people had done well economically, why did you sack your finance minister? That was my position. But if you come and you say in private, I said something.
Dr. Amwa, point made. Kweku Ricketts.
So is that all that you asked me for? All the things we said.
I'll come back to you. The budget reading is on November.
I think you were being mischievous.
What is?
Because I didn't say anything bad.
What is your take on that? What can we expect? And the other issues I've put to you.
Well, there were some vague statements, as we alluded earlier, made by the president. And I would expect the finance minister to come and put some meat on the bone. What the president said, some of them we've talked about, how are we going to move from 105% to, 55% in 2028? I mean, they wouldn't be around to, not being government, not around to, see to this. And then also this haircut issue. What exactly do they mean by that? Because they haven't even started the negotiations in terms of, with the creditors as to what form of restructuring they are going to end up agreeing. There are two levels of agreement here. after doing the IMF negotiations or the IMF agreement, you would then, after staff level, agreement, you will then have to come and engage the creditors. That stage hasn't happened yet. That itself is negotiation. So if you come and make a, preempt some of the things that may or may not happen, that is, problematic. We also want the finance minister to come and actually tell us exactly, because whatever is going to be presented in this budget, presumably would have been things that they have discussed, with the fund. And the fund, don't forget, will be watching the type of budget that the finance minister put forward to see whether the discussions that they've had is actually in any way or form reflected in that type of budget.
Okay.
So hopefully, some of the unanswered questions, and then again, we'll forgive the president for not being the one to provide the technical details, and therefore he can get away.
I mean, there's talk
it.
of the mega 12-point plan, for example. We'll want some more details on that. And
yes, absolutely.
Hopefully, definitely, the budget would be able
because, as I said, some of them are not, are not going to yield anything. But we'll leave that to the finance minister to come and present the budget, and then we see what. But the problem at the moment.
So we have to wrap up.
Credibility is the issue that the government has at the moment, and until that credibility issue is addressed, hopefully that is what the fund will give them, credibility. They should guard this credibility and stop making statements that really doesn't hold water.
Okay.
The finance minister and his other colleague, I don't know when his colleagues went to see the president and told them they should keep these guys. I don't even understand why they are still there. They have become part of the problem. They are ill-advising the president to save their own skin. And the president is coming out talking economics that he has not been properly briefed.
Dr. Amwa, so on the budget reading and the other points that you have to make, which I am not privy to, so I would like you to add.
I'm done.
Just
I'm
give
down
you.
with my stay. I'm not talking again.
You're what?
I'm okay. I'm done.
Okay. Well, on that note, I would like to thank you, gentlemen, Dr. Stephen Amwa, Member of Parliament for Nshia, so also on the Finance Committee of Parliament, and Kweku Ricketts-Hagan, Member of Parliament, Cape Coast South, a former Deputy Finance Minister.